Welcome back to Creating Your Life. This is episode 13, The Story So Far. For this episode, we're going to kind of do a recap. I will talk through some of the concepts that we've talked through so far to kind of put it all together to set up the next section, which will have to do with what you actually do to change pictures. But I did promise last time that I would have my laptop read your mind. So here we go. Watch carefully. So how did he do it? How indeed? Remember, magicians and con artists and people who want to fool you understand how your mind works. They understand that they get you to focus on one area, you're not focusing on something else. And so what does he have you focus on? First of all, I should say this trick works on everybody who watches it. If you think about it, though, you may be able to figure out what the implications are then. You pick a card, and sure enough, it's gone. How does he do it? Well, obviously, if different people pick different cards, he would have to get rid of their cards as well. There are 12 face cards in the deck. Notice he has you focus on one out of 6 that he shows you. But all he has to do is get rid of those 6 and replace it with 5 other face cards that have nothing to do with the ones he showed the first time around. And there you go. There's the magic. But because he's having you just focus on one card, you don't have time to memorize all the face cards. And because you're thinking about that card, he is, in a sense, able to pluck it out of your mind and do what's magical. The mind is about filtering. It's about creating blind spots. It's about allowing you to focus, but doing it in such a way that it keeps you from seeing other things. So let's do a kind of quick review of the story so far. You have a mind, but you are not your mind. The mind is a good slave, but a poor master. In other words, if you understand how the mind works and you understand that it's fairly mechanical in how it works, then you can be more in charge of understanding when it is in a position to create blind spots and keep you from seeing something that you may need to see. Your mind has hamster wheels that can run you ragged with thoughts that drag you down. This is that inner dialogue we talked about, the little things in your head that are being said over and over again that you've taken in. Things you may be saying about yourself, things other people may have been saying that got into your head since childhood or because of the people that you associate with. Your mind's hamster wheels can drive you into melancholy, anger, and despair. If these are toxic wheels that are spinning, toxic thoughts, and if you hang around toxic people, yeah, it can be tough, especially if you're hard on yourself, and many of us are. It tends to be a default there where we will take our thoughts and we'll beat ourselves up with our thoughts because we want to be something, we expect to be something, but we fall short because we're human. And so these hamster wheels can get in us. And if somebody who loves us, our parents, a loved one of some sort, happens to have a pretty negative bent of mind, These people can insert some of these negative hamster wheels that drive us down. The hamster is your own thinking and feeling, what you think, picture, and say about you. So if these are automatic, one of the things you have to think about is how do you take control of them? How do you start changing them? It's hard to resist them, but as I will show you, there's a way to begin to have certain hamsters kind of leave your life, especially if they're toxic hamsters. But other hamsters could come in, good ones, supportive ones, beautiful ones. What you think and talk about in relation to others can create that reality for you as well. So think about how you interact with life, how reality is interpreted by you, and how you talk about it and think about it. Okay, that can be a creation. It's not just creating your own self-image, it's creating the truth, what you believe the world is, what it's capable of. If you have a negative turn of mind, if you have something in your head that just says, life is unfair, get used to it. If you believe that, then life will begin supporting what you believe. Your mind holds pictures about the world that will manifest the longer you hold them. What you hold in your mind matters. Your imagination matters. What you imagine every day habitually, whether or not you realize it, matters. You can take charge of it, however, and you can start letting go of the negative and fill it with the positive. When you hold negative pictures of the world reflects back those pictures. And it's funny. I mean, I think I mentioned before, at least I do in my book, about a time I was managing a convenience store many years ago, and I believe somebody was a shoplifter. We knew we had somebody stealing, but we also had somebody inside who was taking things, and we believed it was this one young woman. Well, it turned out not to be her, but the thing is, while I thought that it was her, I could see it in her. It was almost like the things that were happening, the things she would do would support my idea that she was shifty and a liar. Once we found out it wasn't her, my picture changed and I suddenly realized, wow, I was creating this picture of her because I strongly believed she was the one, when in fact she wasn't. So the negative pictures we hold can be reflected back to us. The world in that sense becomes a mirror. It can mirror ourselves and it can mirror what we believe to be true in the world. Your mind operates automatically when you don't direct it, running negative as a default. We live in a world, I mean, look at the news. The news is about driving negative imagery because that's what hooks people in. The train wrecks, the disasters, the terrorism. These negative pictures, if you watch the news daily and you fill yourself with it, you think the whole world is going down. On the other hand, look in your own neighborhood. And for most people, most of the time, their neighborhoods are fine. If your neighborhood is fine, that's the world you're living in right now. So be careful of the kind of negative imagery that can operate automatically. It can get in your head and you just start making assumptions about the world. You become what you dwell on. You move toward what you picture. All the more reason to take charge of your pictures. Start imagining. What is it that you are dwelling on? What are the kind of things that you think about and say to yourself and to your friends? Your mind accepts what others say of you or what you think they think of you as self-talk. So people can reinforce the image or they can say something else and it could be uplifting and maybe you don't take it in. But if you accept what they say, if you accept the positive and resist the negative, you're more likely to take in what's positive about you. And as a consequence, that becomes your self-talk. Ideally, though, when you're trying to better yourself, when you're trying to let go of the negative, the people around you will let that go as well, and they'll reflect back to you the positive things you want. Your self-talk is like computer code in the program of your life. Remember, the subconscious repository responds to anything that's repeated over and over again. And so these things that you're saying to yourself will get into you as programming. It's very natural. It's a part of your life. You've been doing it all your life, but you've been doing it mostly subconsciously. So it's time to take charge of that. End result thinking helps you overcome blind spots and to create energy to achieve goals. So be careful of assuming in advance that you're limited in what you can do with your next steps. End result thinking means you are picturing the end, and I'm going to be getting into more of that. The idea, though, is that if you think from the end, if you think first about what your goal is, then let the reticular activating system and other things in your life open up to allow these things to come in and support you. Then you have some energy to create and achieve the goals that you're setting, even though when you initially set them, you have no idea how you're going to get there. That's all for now. Next episode, we're going to talk about comfort zones. In the meantime, you can check out my book, which is now in paperback on Amazon.com.